We have a little example of a difference between cultural presuppositions here in this article in the Telegraph, where a football fan, displeased with the way one of the players had performed during a match, pulled out a whip and started whipping the player. And my question is, why did he have a whip in the first place? I'm Granny Opterix. So this is the story. This is the Saudi Super Cup final, whatever that is. I don't follow football, so I might make mistakes here with regard to various practices. But a player called Abderrazak Hamdallah scored Al Ittihad's only goal of the game in a 4-1 defeat by Al Hilal before apparent altercation with spectator. Let's have a look at the altercation. I've turned the sound down. Here he is. Look, you see that? He's actually leaning over the edge, and he was flicking that whip, and the player was seen remonstrating with him. I'd remonstrate as well if someone took a whip to me. Football, it says here, in Saudi Arabia has been shamed after a player was attacked by a supporter with a whip in ugly scenes in the aftermath of the Saudi Super Cup final. And I wanted to point out that this is a little window into the Saudi mentality, which is basically a Muslim mentality. At this point, I am not criticizing Islam per se. I'm talking about the idea that many Muslim societies have of master and servant, an idea which has atrophied somewhat in places like Britain. Now, we do have our soccer thugs in Britain as well, but they have always been one set of fans against the other. So you might find the group that supports Arsenal having a fight with the group that supports Tottenham Hotspur. And they may go tooled up for a fight. You know, you may find, upon searching these people, you may find bricks, knuckle dusters, I don't know. They've been a lot quieter recently and there's a lot more control, but there used to be some quite serious fights. You might find things in their pockets, but they are not aimed at the players. They are aimed at the other fans, the ones on the other side of the stadium. You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you. And this is a sort of window into the attitudes. The British football hooligans are up for a fight, but they are regarding this as a legitimate fight between equals, even if they loathe the other equal. That guy there, he went with a whip, knowing that the player would not be in any way armed, obviously. But he went there with a whip because he was determined to show who was boss. That player was a servant performing for him, and that put him on a lower level and a subservient level, and a level whereby it was quite legitimate for him to beat a servant that they did not expect, that they didn't get what they expected in the way of performance from them. So it's just, I'm not saying that makes the Saudis any less as human beings than the Brits. What I am saying is, when we are dealing with people from places like Saudi Arabia, we have to remember that this master-servant mentality is a basic assumption. Just one of those basic assumptions. Like, we have a basic assumption when we open the front door that there's going to be, you know, the street outside or the fields or whatever. You don't even think about it. They're just going to be there. There are certain things that the British feel that don't even think about, that other countries do think about, and vice versa. So that Saudi football fan thought about, it just never occurred to him in any other way, but that those players are performers and servants of his that need disciplining when they're not working properly. That's an attitude, by the way, that you're seeing more and more with the BBC. I'm not saying it doesn't exist in Britain, although taking out a whip might be a little bit extreme. I remember seeing an Egyptian film, and this has happened in several. There was an Egyptian film in which it was, you know, a love story, and there was a love affair between two people of equal social rank, and at the same time a love affair between their servants. And this was a very, you know, sort of Mozartian type setup. And at one point the manservant asks the woman's maid to marry him, and she says, yes, I'd love to. I'll just go and ask my mistress for her permission. It was just taken for granted. And there's this attitude. So when people in the West have to deal with people from that sort of an area, the one thing they must never do is put themselves in the servant category, or they'll get shafted. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the West, like the Swedish delegation of women that went to Iran and put on hijabs, they put themselves into that servant category. And this is something that no Westerner should ever do. And it's just something, they thought they were being culturally sensitive. But, as I said, they were putting themselves in the position of that football player, just able to be whipped because they were in that category. Right, well, a warning to the West, okay? Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.